All right, today we're looking at depression, but through a completely different lens. This is a framework from the futurist Jacque Fresco, and it's pretty radical. We're going to break down his way of seeing depression not as a sickness, but as a signal. So let's just dive right in. So let's just start with this one question, because it's at the absolute heart of Fresco's whole idea. What if your depression isn't a sign that your brain is broken? What if it's a sign that it's working perfectly, given the world it finds itself in? I mean, just thinking about that for a second, it pretty much challenges everything we're normally told about mental health. Okay, so Fresco's first big point is this. He completely reframes what depression even is. He says it's not some internal chemical issue. Nope. He argues it's a conflict between you and your environment, a fundamental mismatch with reality.
And this slide lays it out perfectly. On the one hand, you have the conventional view. The problem's inside you. It's a brain thing, a chemical thing. But Fresco's view, he just flips that whole idea on its head. He says the problem isn't inside you, it's the gap between the world you were taught to expect and the world that you're actually living in. Your depression isn't the malfunction, it's the alarm bell telling you about the malfunction. And this brings us to a really key term he uses, reasonable depression. That word, reasonable, is so important here. It means your unhappiness actually makes perfect sense. It's the logical, predictable result when the world around you just doesn't line up with the mental map you were given. The feeling is a correct response to incorrect data. So, if it's a reasonable response, could it actually have a benefit? Now, Fresco would say yes, but not the suffering itself, obviously. The benefit is in the message. Depression is this incredibly loud, you can't ignore it alarm bell. It's your entire system just screaming at you that the software you're running, your worldview, your beliefs, it's just not compatible with reality anymore. It's basically forcing you to look for an update. Okay, so if this mismatch, this conflict, is all about our expectations, then the next question has to be, where do we even get these expectations that end up causing us so much pain?
This quote really just gets right to the point. Fresco argued that we're basically living inside a prison that we built ourselves, out of our own expectations. See, we think we're reacting to the world as it is, but most of the time we're actually reacting to how we think the world should be. And that internal rule book, that becomes the source of our own oppression.
So where does that rule book come from? Well, Fresco points straight at our conditioning. We get it from social propaganda, what success is supposed to look like. We get it from outdated beliefs that are handed down to us. We even get it from school systems that might teach patriotism over, say, critical thinking. And we end up building this entire value system on information that might be completely irrelevant to solving the real problems in our lives.
And this leads us to a huge puzzle. I mean, if our worldview is so clearly not working for us and it's making us deeply unhappy, why is it so ridiculously hard to just change it? Fresco's answer starts right here. It's a simple but profound idea. We are products of our environment. Our values, how we react to things, even what we think of as our personality. It's all shaped by our life experiences, our culture, everything we've been soaked in since birth.
But, and this is the big trap, even though we're basically programmed by our environment, we have this incredibly powerful feeling that our thoughts are ours, that they are original. We think there's this little me inside our heads coming up with all these unique ideas, when, really, we're mostly just echoing our conditioning.
So you see the conflict, right? Because we identify so strongly with our beliefs, we think our beliefs are us. It becomes impossible to step back and look at them objectively. It feels like a personal attack. And that stops us from being able to look at our own mental source code and figure out which lines of code are causing the whole system to crash.
And that, of course, leads us to the most important question of all. If we're programmed and we don't even realize the extent of it, how in the world do we break that cycle? How do we even start to rewrite that faulty code?
This is where we get to the really practical part of Fresco's method. He doesn't just sit there and describe the problem, he actually offers a toolkit, a different way of thinking that can help us start to move forward.
Okay, so here's the method. Step 1, you stop treating your beliefs like they're facts set in stone. Instead, you treat them like hypotheses, just ideas that need to be tested against the real world. Step 2, you become a detective in your own life. You start to analyze all the things in your environment that are shaping you. Step 3, you actively go looking for relevant information. Not just stuff that confirms what you already think, but actual knowledge that helps you solve your problems. And finally, step 4, you adopt a scientific mindset. And that just means you have to be willing, and this is the hard part, to throw away a belief you love if the evidence shows it just isn't working.
So, when you boil it all down, the goal here shifts completely. You're no longer trying to fix a broken piece of hardware, your brain. Instead, you're becoming an engineer of your own mind. You're working to update your mental software so it runs way more smoothly in the world we actually live in right now, not the world we were told to expect.
So let's end with this. If you follow Fresco's logic all the way through, you land on this really powerful final thought. If we accept that we are shaped by our environment, then we have to ask ourselves a much bigger question. What kind of environment are our actions and our beliefs helping to create for everyone else? And that shifts everything from being a helpless victim of circumstance to being an active architect of our shared future.